know when and where to fight. Don't start a fight for no reason. Those are your main ones. And then just showing respect and treat people how you want to be treated.
To inspire young girls to dream big, first we must introduce them to women that they can relate to. I'm Asma Al-Badawi, and this is Beyond PE. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of Beyond PE. Today my guest is Saima. Saima, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Saima and I've known Asma for a long time now, alhamdulillah. I am a qualified physiotherapist and on the side, I am a qualified martial arts instructor. I've been doing Ju-Jitsu for about 13 years now. I think, yeah. Started in year 7, 13 years now. And I've been coaching since I was 18. It's a long time. I can't work out the maths.
So obviously I met you while I was doing Jiu-Jitsu, and I started doing Jiu-Jitsu when I was initially 14, but I didn't meet you at the time. And then I went back to it about 2 years ago, and that's when we met again. But I was really fascinated by the amount of belts that you actually have won, mashallah. So can you tell me a little bit more about like the sort of awards that you have in Jiu-Jitsu?
Okay, so I think one of the I can say alhamdulillah the best achievement of my life, one of the best achievements of my life was probably achieving my black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. So you work, it's just like with the martial arts, how you start off at a beginner's level, so it's white belt, and then you slowly build up. So throughout school, it was an after school club that I went to. So throughout school, working on each of the belts, achieving all the belts, and then got my first black belt in year 11, alhamdulillah, and then got my second black belt at the end of year 13. And my third black belt literally 2019 December, just before COVID. Blessed.
Remember
That one
that?
was blessed. And then I'm training now for my fourth Dan, but I've practically learned most of those things, but as it goes on, so when you train for your first black belt, it's 1 year to train, then second black belt, 2 years to train, and then as it go on. So it's still 4 years for me before I can actually go and grade for my black belt. And then on the side of that, we had like competitions. So we had internal club competitions. And alhamdulillah, so we did like sparring, continuous fighting. So we're standing and fighting, gum shields, gloves, head gear, shin pads. So sparring, 1 minute sparring, then 45 seconds of trying to throw each other, and then 1 minute ground fighting. And alhamdulillah, in that competition, my first one, I got a gold medal from the ground fighting.
Mashallah.
From the continuous fighting, gold medal as well, which more so speed. Being small, I had to utilize those skills in speed rather than in strength. Then I did the second competition and I got my gold in katas. So katas are like sequences, a weapons kata, that one was. And I do like my weapons. A car collection here. And that's pretty much it. So, but aside from that, that was more my training aspect. And now I've taken all the coaching side some more, so get my students to go through and achieve their belts and achieve their gold medals and certificates and so on. So alhamdulillah, I'm happy with the journey. That starting jiu-jitsu was probably one of the best things I've done in my life, without a
See,
doubt, actually.
I really wanted to continue, and then obviously the whole world stopped. So we didn't get the opportunity to continue. But you mentioned that you started this in school, and the theme of this conversation to a certain extent is beyond PE, and this idea of like what made you continue playing sports after you left school. So you said already like that you played in school, but what made you continue after you'd left?
I've always been like, you can say sporty, but I've always enjoyed the sport element. I think it's one of the things that I've picked up on early life. Like I was good at that. I didn't have to, without tooting my own horn, I didn't have to try. Whereas with maths and science, I had to try. But it was one thing that alhamdulillah my mum always supported me with as well. And it wasn't ever an issue of like, oh, just we focus on your education. Like, yes, it was important, focus on education, but sports, you're interested in it, you can go continue doing it. And then PE, best lessons in school, looked forward to them. But then outside of PE, so after school club, this is where I started jiu-jitsu, because I found out that this it was an after school club at the school I went to. Um, went to one session, met my first sensei, and just fell in love with the sport. Bear in mind, when I was about 5, I started karate when I was younger, but that never continued on because with the club being closed, as I got older, the club closed down. So then I had that gap in life where I thought I want to do a martial art, but I wasn't aware of any in Bradford. Then thankfully, like alhamdulillah, I worked out going to this school, found jiu-jitsu, fell in love with the sport straight away. And that was my main thing that made me want to continue. So throughout the years, I achieved all my belts and I had this support from my mum. So, and I had, even though I got my first black belt in year 11, so I was still in school, there was still so much I felt like I had to do, as in coaching, the medals. There's so much more that was basically in the sport for me to do, which is the main thing that kept me going outside of school. Found out that it wasn't that far from my house, the place of training outside. Convinced my dad. Literally
It's the best thing
convinced
when
my
it's just
dad.
down the road.
Yeah. And because obviously at that time, and now alhamdulillah my mum's driving, but at the time mum wasn't driving. So I convinced my dad to like take me to the gradings, take me to the club gradings, and he was all for it. There we did have the times where it was a bit like, stop now, you've got your black belt, like chill for a bit. I'm like, nah, I've got weapons, I've got all this to do and I've got that to do. And then it was more passion, and you can kind of argue the thing of I'm a bit stubborn. Like if it's something that I want, I'll make sure I get it. Like I'll I'll make sure, I sound so bad. I'll make sure I continue to go through and get that.
No, it's everything you're saying. Like I'm smiling like this because I can relate to so much of the stuff that you're saying. Like the support from my mum and dad, this was the same in my life. Like if they hadn't been supportive of me going to the after school clubs, going to like the jiu-jitsu, going to the basketball, I would never have continued playing until now. And that same feeling of like I've not finished with sport yet. Like there's always something, another level to sport that you can sort of
Yeah.
tap into. And I think like when we're growing up, like for me, when I was growing up, I didn't know you could do like you do physiotherapy. Like I didn't even know that was a thing, right? And then it wasn't until like later when I was kind of getting injured a little bit that I was like, oh, I need to go see a physiotherapist. And then I like kind of discovered this whole world of like sports science and all these different things. So I wanted to actually ask you as well, like you're visibly Muslim and you're from Bradford, like myself. So the kind of idea that people have of our city is that like the Muslim girls are kind of there, but they're not really participating in sports. How do you feel like your experience was in Bradford and in terms of like other Muslim girls playing sport
And
with you or not?
yeah, coming from an all girls school, you had the cultural element play a massive factor, as well as Islam. So it was a case of girls should just study, or basically we weren't built up in, you don't have any future, you just do this, that's it, yeah, that is your job. That's But I think this is one thing I always say, alhamdulillah, I'm grateful because I had that support from my mum, because I didn't see it as that was the end all for a girl. And then the good thing with the school was learning more into Islam and what Islam actually says about women in Islam, that yes, we can engage in sports. It's not a thing for it's just for men or it's just for boys. Um, so that was a big thing. But obviously then through coming from the girls' school, how you seen that a lot of people were from the background and culture, like the you can say the sect I'm from as well. A lot of the mindset is like women shouldn't engage in sports, shouldn't work. And if they're working, is literally work and come home, and they're expected to do all this housework. Um, and I've seen it in some of my friends where they were limited, like they were so smart and they were so that could be academically smart and really good at the sport, but they weren't able to take anything further. Like, and think of it in this way. So there was a meme about a martial arts student who started and had a big group of friends, and then after so many years, he was just the only one. And I showed that to my sensei, and I was like, this is how I feel, because I've literally gone from having this whole group of people that started jiu-jitsu with me, training with me, and then over the few years, obviously it's all started to they drop off, whether that be life playing a part or a lot of them going, you can't continue with this. And I did have, I'm not gonna lie, I had those barriers where it's like, stop now, relax now. But me genuinely just being like a stubborn person, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no. That was my main thing. But also with the women in sports, the good thing with genuinely with our club that we're in, majority are women, majority are Muslim women. Like, it is a very inclusive club, alhamdulillah. But the head of the club being a woman, it was a massive factor for me to go, do you know what, I'm going to carry that on, I'm make something of my life, put that further into my life. My first few sensei, she was a Muslim woman, she was hijabi as well, and that another one for me for like just inspiration. Like, if I then saw myself like that in the future, then when I was little, like
Yeah.
now, alhamdulillah, I can say I'm there. And I have students now as well, where I literally had a little girl in my class when I first started teaching her, and she wasn't wearing a hijab. And then 2 weeks later, she come in with a hijab and she goes, Sensei, do you like my hijab? And I was like, it was so cute. Her mum even literally said to me, her mum goes, she loves coming here. She loves, so her mum, obviously, I've had a lot of parents say, we're so glad that there's a Muslim woman teaching our kids. So you don't realize these things until you're there in that situation. I didn't think anything of it being a Muslim woman teaching kids until you've had parents come and say to you that other than genuine discipline that you instill in the students, there's that other aspect as well of like what falls into Islam of just basic manners, respect, that kind of thing, and the kids see it.
Yeah, and I
So
think they
with that,
also
I was
know,
like,
yeah, like, and I think they also know, like, that the child, for example, when they come and they learn from you as a Muslim woman, if they are going through challenges, or if it's Ramadan, or if there's any time of the year that's like there's something going on the Islamic calendar, you'll kind of know about it. And I think that was a huge thing for me as well. Like, the fact that the club that we train with is all women a lot of the times, and the fact that like I see so many Muslim girls there from like so many different backgrounds is one of the reasons that I feel so comfortable there. I know that if like my hijab falls off or something, I'm gonna be okay.
I
And to
get
be
that.
honest, I don't even think I wear my hijab in the women's only sessions.
No,
I
no,
don't
in
even.
training, see, that's the thing as well, because we're given that women's only training session, so you're made to feel comfortable. So I don't wear my hijab when I'm training with women, but obviously you have the opportunity of like the mixed gradings or mixed adult sessions. So again, even there, like the respect that you get given from male students and male parents as well when they come in.
Because they know you'll just beat them up.
I knew that were coming.
Yeah. Do you think that like all girls should learn martial arts?
Do you know, I always say this, just generally, not even regardless of where you are in the world, I think, and not even just women, but even men, everyone should learn self-defense. But based on like, I can be so wrong about this, but based on like statistics and how women are always seen as the most vulnerable and yeah, victims of domestic violence or of any kind of abuse, I definitely think women should learn just the basics of self-defense. You don't even have to go down the route of, you don't even need to be a black belt, just having the basics there, that when they're walking to and from work, when they're walking, even just doing a local shop, that they feel safe. And I know a lot of women, we did basically in my gap year, we did some work for some women that were victims of domestic violence, and they were saying about using sprays. And I remember working for West Yorkshire Police, and I asked the cop once, I'd like, can we use sprays? He said no. He was like, you're not allowed to use a spray. But this is where it came down to developing so many sessions and projects where we like deliver jiu-jitsu and self-defense classes to women and girls in Bradford everywhere, and we're still working on it. And alhamdulillah, I think the club's grown in that way. COVID has played a big factor, unfortunately, in it, but it's not affected our numbers in the sense of we're still getting Muslim women, new ones
Yeah, I
every day.
thought I'd be on my brown belt by now.
Asma, you got time? My classes are available.
Inshallah, when I'm back in the UK. Think,
Inshallah. We might need to do Zoom meetings and then
do you know
just
what? It's
don't
not
knock
bad
out
shout.
anyone out in Netherlands, man. I'll have to bail you out.
I'm gonna ask you one more question, inshallah,
Yeah.
and that is basically, how does your faith contribute to your life as an athlete?
This question, do you know what? It does have an element there, because do you know how, like, okay, we're talking about in jiu-jitsu, we follow seven codes of Bushido. So that obviously they're the seven codes that the samurai used to follow. So if you look traditionally at jiu-jitsu, it's the same things Islam instills in us. That be respect of everyone, loyalty, honesty, compassion. Compassion being the big word I have an issue with at the moment. But this is the thing, like, do you know how it's the way of the life, or way of life for anyone that studies martial arts, regardless of religion and background. Religion plays that factor because those characteristics are covered in Islam anyway. So, for example, now if I learn whatever I learn in training, I don't go out and start using that, like, yo, I know how to defend myself. Come on, come here, try punch me. And I say the same to my students. It's about knowing, and Jackie Chan says it, and there's a massive factor as well, like watching Bruce Lee, watching the original Karate Kids, watching Jackie Chan, all that, and Ip Man. Look at Ip Man and how he is. That's generally in Islamically how we are supposed to be. Know when and where to fight. Don't start a fight for no reason. Those are your main ones. And then just showing respect and treat people how you want to be treated. Also, the main thing and the biggest thing for me was controlling my anger. And you know how obviously in Islam we say when you're angry you say astaghfirullah, you sit down, you lay down. And that works for me more now. I can say alhamdulillah after starting jiu-jitsu and like having sensei basically instill that in me, going like, stop being a hot-headed little person. So that's a lot of the thing that made me chilled out a lot more. So I think yes, it does. It has its it balances out. So like mat etiquette, one of them. You know, when you feet together, hands by your side, and you bow. Obviously, with Islam, we don't say you're not looking down and bowing. You're looking straight, eye contact above, because it's respect to the person, but it's not where you're worshiping the person. And I always have to instill this in when I've got Muslim students in there as well. And then there's the element, like for example, there's a lot of people who just full stop don't want to bow, and it's fine, you can say it's okay, because everyone's level of faith is different. So you can't force them to do it, but that's how I see it. Like with me, from however long I've been doing it, 13 years now, it's always I'll bow, look straight ahead, so it's not confused with anything else.
How do you think people outside the Muslim community can support Muslims when it comes to sport?
A lot of it can come down to, like, this is a tough one only because with the club being from Bradford and majority of our people being Muslim, um, I've gone to like a national competition where I've felt targeted because we're brown. Yeah, so to answer that question, mainly the main things is uh about equality. So that can be down to your roles. So making sure that everyone is carrying out their own role, but not where you're starting to see like is it unconscious bias?
Yeah, that's it. Unconscious bias.
Yeah. So like making sure even if there's any risk of unconscious bias, making sure, like for example, if there's a competition going on, a jiu-jitsu competition, making sure that the referees on the mats are not from the same club as whoever's fighting, and if it can be avoided. Because this is what you get when you go to nationals, because you'll get everyone of different backgrounds, and different cultures, different clubs, but predominantly your middle-aged white men. That's what it comes to. So in terms of support, the best things are obviously that. So we're making sure that whatever gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal that is handed out is because each individual earned it for their skill, for their level of technique and speed, or whatever it may be that they're looking for, rather than skin color, background, and what club they're from, that kind of thing. Um, at the same time, I think when it comes to like the coaching elements, so coaching courses, referee courses, to making sure, as well as those rules of how to coach, how to ref, as well as them being the main things of making sure, your discrimination, your bias, if you're undecisive and can't make a decision, that kind of thing, those need to be covered as well. um and just general support for whether the clubs that are bigger and higher up supporting the little, the local, your grassroots clubs.
It's a big question.
I know
But you
there's a
did a good
lot, but
job.
I'm like,
But okay, so if people want to find out more about you, how can they find you and where can they find you?
okay, so I have the Honor Jiu-Jitsu Club page on Instagram, as well as the SK two hyphens physio on Instagram. The Honor Jiu-Jitsu Club, if you type it in Google, you can get that on the website. And then the club, the contact details will be of the head coach if you're interested in classes, etc. If you wanted to contact me, then there's my Facebook. Just put in Saima Khan. It should come there as Honor Jiu-Jitsu coach or physio, and my Twitter. Twitter's private at the moment, but I'm most likely looking at putting that open up because there's a lot on there that's work related, jiu-jitsu and physio. Those are the main ones.
Well, Jazakallah khair, and thank you so much. Honestly, I've really enjoyed getting to know you more, because I know you quite a bit, but it's so much nicer to kind of like hear more about you and in such a calm kind of environment. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this episode and the previous episodes. Please follow Saima and follow all my other guests from the previous episodes. Also, don't forget to follow the Women's Trust. They're a huge charity that do a lot of work with women around sports, and they were a huge kind of factor in getting me to do these videos and talk about Muslim women and share our stories. Thank you so much once again, and have a lovely evening.